Now that Kuma's race has been revealed to be so important, I believe his life will officially be over. And it's related to, of course, Wano and Luffy becoming Joy Boy with his Delphoid ability awakening to the mythical Zoan Nika fruit, with even having Zonisha, an entire island, pull up. We all know the background history of Zonisha, how there is such reason why Zonisha is doing what Zonisha is doing. You guys all know that, of course, but we don't actually know the details of it. But I will say this, it'll all tie up together, of course, to Kuma, and people are forgetting the Iron Giant of Egghead Island. But I'll explain that more in detail at the end of the video, so you definitely gotta stay to the end. I also want to mention the Lunarian Racing King and how he was waiting for Joy Boy, and that is an important plotline that people are just glazing over because of Wano's ending. No, that is super important when it comes to the Void Sentry and the Lunarians. And look at the whole situation of pretty much Kuma, who was based off the Pacifistas, and then of course King, who's based off the Seraphims. Both of these weapons of the world government are based off these special races, but thankfully King got saved by Kaido at Punk Hazard, but Kuma never got saved. He had to deal with the torment for a very long time. Now, during the last chapter, the mythical Zoan Saturn, like the Gorosei 5 Elder Star, who serves Imu, was saying a lot of things that were crazy, like how pretty much Kuma was born to be a slave. That's a wild statement. Of course, also saying they're the people. Kuma's the people of descendants that committed a grave sin against the world. So we know that Kuma's race was teaming up with Joy Boy because that's the opposition of the world from the Void Century. And of course, a survivor of the now extinct Bucaneer race. So we get a name of this special race, and Kuma is the lone survivor. We also see moments of Kuma speaking to Bonnie and saying how he always wanted to be a hero who can save people from suffering and grant them freedom, like the warrior of liberation, who we now know is Monkey D. Luffy. So it's so cool how Kuma is connected to Luffy. We just thought it was Monkey D. Dragon and the Revolutionary Army. There's more to it, of course. And then of course Kuma and Bonnie like doing the Nika dance in the chapter was just amazing, because we all know we're about to see Gear 5th Luffy in Egghead Island do one more final thing. We've seen it against Rob Lucci, we've seen it against Kizaru, but I think against Saturn is really gonna take the cake when it comes to Monkey D. Luffy. And Bonnie asked Kuma a real question: am I gonna be free too? And Kuma said of course. And this is definitely a setup to Luffy saving Bonnie. There's like no if, ands, or but. We all know this is a setup to it, and I can't wait to see it happen. Now of course the last chapter, everyone's talking about God Valley, even myself. I think I made like countless videos on God Valley, but I never mentioned Kuma because I feel like Kuma deserves his own video. And the flashback was a Kuma flashback. To give you a little perspective, 47 years ago Kuma was born and enslaved right away after the hospital found out his DNA. And I definitely gotta say, the family, oh sad, yo, the world government hates the race, so they had to be slaves. We also see Celestial Dragons commenting on young Kuma. Kuma is so young, and they're saying his power is amazing, and he's just like a little kid who's a slave doing chore work. It's like, it's insane. The Buccaneer race, insane. And after Kuma's mother dies, Kuma says a statement, the title of the chapter: isn't death so much easier? And this is to his father, and his father replies, the warrior of liberation will come and save you. Now we all know Clap is of course a full Buccaneer, and he explains that the sun god Nika name has been passed down through the Buccaneer folklore through generations. So that's insane. And pretty much he tells Kuma that Nika will come to take you out to the sea where you'll be under the sun. Now if you guys don't know, Otahime said the exact same thing in the Fishman Island arc when she was passing away. So the connections are scary. Ichiroda is a genius, of course. This guy's been doing this for so long, and he keeps on amazing me. And the final words of Kuma's father was, people never fail to laugh. And of course when Nika comes, and then he starts dancing and singing the Nika song and dancing, and then Kuma's father is shot by a Celestial Dragon for being too loud. That is how you do a sad flashback. Now Ivankov at the end of the chapter revealed something so important, that the Buccaneer race carry the blood of the giant. And the reason why this is so important is because yes, we know the Buccaneer race was the star of the God Valley tournament, with characters like Saturn, Figureland, Garling. We had the Rocks Pirates, we had Goldie Roger and Garp teaming up. I can go on and on how amazing this arc is. But the fact that the next arc is most likely Elbaf, and we saw what happened on Elbaf with Kid vs. Shanks. This is gonna be wild. This is gonna be wild how the Buccaneer tie into the Giants, because I can't wait to see. Because we know the Giants are not slaved like the Buccaneer race. They're vice admiral of the Marines. Their power is cherished by Beam Big Mom. So the Giants get treated differently than the Buccaneer race. Even when we first get introduced to Kuma's Delphoid ability, the name of it is the Niku no Mi. And it's the pawpaw fruit, but the thing is, the name in Japanese reminds me of Nika. So the connections of Kuma to Joy Boy have always been there throughout the story, and I think his ancestors had this Delphoid ability as well. I think the Niku no Mi was definitely belonged to a Buccaneer. And during Thriller Bark, Kuma is sent there to pretty much kill Luffy and everyone who's there that after witnessing Moria's defeat, but he gives the Straw Hat Pirates an ultimatum. Give me Luffy's head and I'll let you guys live. And of course they all reply hell no, which was probably one of the amazing moments in One Piece. But Kuma definitely says what a pity, but in his head he's thinking these guys are real ones for riding out for their captain. We also find out in Thriller Bark that Kuma is not a regular human, he's not a regular Buccaneer race, he's a pacifista because of Dr. Vegapunk. And it's crazy because now we are seeing Vegapunk in the Egghead Island arc and how they want to kill him. I think this is so cool. And even though Kuma accepts Zoro's trade for himself for Luffy, even though Zoro's ambition is to become the world's greatest swordsman, and even though Sanji wanted to do it but Zoro knocked him out, he says something very important. I will show you hell. He says, I will show you hell. And this is a man who Kuma, who's pretty much his whole life after getting context has been hell. And Thriller Bark is so important because we see Kuma do this once and once only. He removes Monkey D. Luffy's pain and fatigue, and of course transfers it to Zoro to use, of course, so he can get hell. But I think this is important because I think Kuma has done this attack only one time. I think we're going to see it more times in the future, either in Kuma's flashback or probably when Kuma gets sent to Egghead Island. And I like how Kuma gives respect to, of course, Luffy's crew. He says, you really have good Nakama, and I expect no less of the son of Dragon. But a lot of people are not talking about this, how Ivankov and Kuma are both the founding members of the Revolutionary Army. But at the end of the day, Ivankov was left in the dark of even Luffy being Dragon's son. But Kuma knew. Shows you that Kuma and Dragon have a unique relationship, different to Dragon and Ivankov. Yes, Ivankov is one of Dragon's top guys that pretty much founded the Revolutionary Army, but Kuma, it's special. And we see Kuma again, of course, in the Sabaody arc, and he's pretty much like, oh, Zoro, you're still alive. And Zoro replies, thanks to your mercy. And this could be looked at both ways. It could looked at as Zoro pretty much just having banter with Kuma, or you could actually look at it as Zoro knows that Kuma made him survive. Regardless, it's an epic line. And Kizaru is just shocked that Kuma's there at Sabaody, saying, you should be at headquarters preparing for the war. And this is why pirates can't be trusted. But Kuma doesn't, like, this is interesting because Kuma disrespected the orders for one reason only. That's Monkey D. Luffy. The same man that pretty much Mori was mocking for always listening to the world government like a obedient dog. That just shows you how Kuma definitely is more to meets the eye. And I always thought the Kuma and Rayleigh discussion in the middle of Kizaru and Rayleigh fighting was always cool, of course, but now we have context that both of them were actually on God Valley, and Rayleigh asking like pretty much, can I trust you? And he replies, it's up to you, but I'm in my own position is not that secure. I'm in a precarious situation. So I thought that dialogue between them was very interesting. Definitely means that probably they didn't cross paths on God Valley. Or maybe I would look at it as Rayleigh didn't look at Kuma as, how do I say this, as someone he knows. It's just someone he crossed paths with. He doesn't actually know Kuma, and this was probably their first conversation with each other. And of course, Ichiro Oda is a very poetic man when he makes a story. So Nika Robin, of course, is the last Straw Hat that gets sent flying before Luffy, and we all know Kuma sent her to the Revolutionary Army, and there's always something related to probably Olivia, of course, Nika Robin's mom, or Professor Clover, who's good friends with Monkey D. Dragon. There's connections there we just don't know yet. And Kuma tells Luffy a very iconic line. We will not meet again. Farewell. And remember this line, because I think this line is important not just to the One Piece story, I think it's important to the Egghead Island finale. So remember this line that Kuma said in Sabaody. Of course, the next time we see Kuma, he is officially dead. Doflamingo says it to our face and to Ivankov, the person who we just saw in the last chapter who met Kuma the first revolutionary to actually meet Kuma. And Doflamingo tells Luffy and Ivankov that Vegapunk turned him into a complete human weapon, and that Kuma volunteered, which Ivankov says he hates the world government, he would never volunteer, and Doflamingo replies, I don't know what deal he made, but I do know that Kuma is not the Kuma you guys know right now. And of course, Ivankov's just wondering what happened over the course of the last few years. And it's obvious what happened. Kuma had a daughter over the last few years, Ivankov, and that's why he's sacrificing himself. Just look at moments like Akainu when, of course, Blackbeard is trying to hand in Bonnie. Akainu is like, wow, you escaping that brought a chill down my spine. And Bonnie's like, I'll never forgive you guys, because she knows what they did to her father, Kuma. Or even when Kizaru mentions Bonnie, I think, or someone mentions Bonnie, and Saturn's like, yeah, just leave her, she's just a kid. There's definitely been a deal made that we are not 100% certain for, but it has to do with Bonnie, in my personal opinion. I thought it was very interesting how in the beginning of Egghead Island, Bonnie forgets to tell Luffy that she ran into Sabo, but she just says, I'll tell him later. I think the perfect time to tell is after Luffy saves her. And think about this, early on in the Egghead Island arc, Luffy already saved her from a pacifista because she thought it was Kuma, her father. So that could be definitely the foreshadowing of how Egghead Island's gonna end. And with Bonnie about to be killed by Saturn, Luffy, we need you now. And I always thought it was cool how Jinbei gives his dialogue of what he knows of Kuma. Obviously it's not the truth because the world government covers up everything, but Jinbei says the story is that he's heard that Kuma is pretty much a tyrant who of course was pushed out and became a pirate and had ties to the revolutionary and had a life sentence, which honestly we all know the true reason. Jinbei himself even wonders which crime he committed to get a life sentence from the world government, and Bonnie says no, he was not a tyrant and he hated the world government, and pretty much that he was a special race. And she talked about how being different doesn't justify him being a lab rat or him being killed, and Luffy's like, I agree. This is important, guys. Luffy agreeing. This is important, of course. During Egghead Island, we also learn about the Iron Giant that 200 years ago went and attacked Mary Joa's. And of course, the world government did not like this and they wanted to destroy the Iron Giant, but of course, the scientists were so interested in it. You gotta think, 200 years ago, what happened to cause this situation? And that was the same time the fisherman rights movement started. This all has to be connected to the Void Century. And during Egghead Island, we saw Dragon and Ivankov yell at Kuma. Like, Dragon says, where do you want to go? And Ivankov says, we're not done fighting, stay with us. And obviously we know the Vegapunk connection to Kuma and the Iron Giant is definitely going to be explored in this arc. And think about it, Kuma went to Mary Joa's just like the Iron Giant went there and attacked. And of course, we also saw recently he escaped the Fleet Admiral. That's a very W to escape the Fleet Admiral with his Niku no Mi. Definitely says something about this character. And I feel like something else is about to occur. Think about it, guys. The Iron Giant recently, when Luffy went Gear 5th, activated when Luffy was fighting Kizaru, if you guys did not know. And I think this is definitely connected to the Kuma as well. I personally believe Kuma is coming to Egghead Island to go see Nika and get his mind back. Yes, I think he will be reunited with Bonnie, but I also think when he sees Gear 5th and the Drums of Liberation, he will definitely become the Kuma we know of from prior to when he actually lost his mind. And I think Bonnie will see her father, and I think even Kuma will speak of Monkey D. Dragon and Luffy's connection and whatnot. But I think at the end of the day, you guys all see the title, I think Kuma will die to Saturn and definitely bring up the levels of hype. I think One Piece does deaths amazing in the story, and Luffy vs Saturn is going to be even more sweeter. I think this arc could lead to, of course, Bonnie joining Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates and the Yonko crew. We didn't get to see Yamato join, so Bonnie would definitely be a delight to see her join. And the Void Century ties of the Buccaneer race and Joy Boy will continue through Bonnie and Luffy. Now, a lot of people are like, don't forget to talk about that huge Straw Hat that Imu was staring at with Luffy's bounty poster. I do not think that is Joy Boy. I don't think that belongs to Joy Boy. I think that was the Buccaneer Straw Hat that pretty much worked for Joy Boy, was allies with Joy Boy. And I think that huge Straw Hat belongs to the descendant of Kuma and Bonnie. I think truly Luffy's Straw Hat is, of course, belonging to Joy Boy that's been sent down to, of course, Roger and, of course, Shanks. So that's just my thoughts on that.